Fellas, it's 2026, and that means it is far past time for an updated tier list of the best OLEDs I've ever reviewed. Now, if you haven't heard of me before, who is this clown? Well, I'm Connor, I go by the Display Guy, and I've reviewed more OLED monitors and TVs than I can count. But with that out of the way, let's jump into the list, and let's start off with one that I reviewed a long time ago, the Alienware AW3225QF, except for yes, it is still available. Now, it's gonna be available for around $1,000, so it's certainly not cheap, but it's a pretty decent monitor. It had a few issues on launch, but they were eventually resolved, making it today, I think, a pretty dang good option. Now, this one in particular is a 32-inch 4K 240Hz glossy QD OLED using the triangular RGB subpixel arrangement, which every QD OLED on the list today will be using. Now, this does come with one DisplayPort 1.4 and two HDMI 2.1 ports, so if you want to run 4K 240Hz HDR, yes, you unfortunately will have to use display stream compression. Now, does that make really any difference for the vast majority of people? These days, no. The issues around it have pretty much been solved from everything that I've seen, but some people still don't like it, so keep that in mind. Also, there's no perceivable latency difference or anything like that either, so just keep that in mind. But in any case, this one's gonna go into B tier. I feel like it's a pretty solid option, but we're going up against the absolute best monitors in the market today, so it's gonna have to really wow me to get up into that A tier or S tier category. Now, next up, we have the Gigabyte FO32U2P, and this one is actually a DisplayPort 2.1 32-inch 4K glossy QD OLED, but everything else about this is pretty much the same as the Alienware. Now, unfortunately, although this should be close to $1,000 or $1,100, you just can't really find it, so there are gonna be somewhat of elevated prices. So yeah, if you can find this one, I think it's a pretty solid option. Nothing crazy about the accuracy or anything about it really blew me away, but yeah, it's good. So I'm gonna throw this one into a solid B tier. Now, next up, we have the Samsung OLED G8, and this one I think is gonna be a little controversial because there's certainly things to love about it. I mean, it does come with the Tizen OS, and there's a lot of things in there that allow you to kind of enjoy the monitor in a way that maybe you can't on other options. But for me, well, here's where it gets crazy because sure, it's pretty much the same as the other two in terms of it's a 32-inch QD OLED using the same subpixel arrangement, but this one, it's not glossy, it's matte. And there's gonna be some people who like that, but I think there's gonna be a lot of people, including me, that don't like that. Now, why don't I like that? Well, listen, folks. The choice between a glossy coating and a matte coating, in my opinion, is a pretty easy choice because, let's put it this way, if you're driving your car, would you sand the front windshield to reduce reflections? No, you wouldn't, because you want to look through it and that would reduce your visibility. Same concept with a monitor. Now, of course, maybe that's a little bit ridiculous. It's not quite that bad on a monitor. I get it, but I think the same concept applies. Unfortunately, it will reduce the clarity and potentially even the depth or kind of like pop of the monitor when you go with a matte coating versus a glossy coating. And here's the thing, you're not eliminating reflections, you're diffusing them, so you're spreading them over a larger area and maybe making them less distracting, but they're still there. So for that reason, I'm really not a big fan of this monitor, and in fact, despite the fact that some people will actually really love this, and by the way, I will have affiliate links as well as full reviews to every single display, or I think just about every display I go over in the description below if you want to learn more or pick one up yourself. But this one's gonna be one that I don't recommend as much. I could definitely see it being C tier. In fact, some people might even consider this S tier, but for me, it's a D tier. But hey, that's my opinion. Make your own decision. Anyway, the next one's the FO32U from Gigabyte. And look, this is pretty much the same as the U2P, except for this one in particular, I got slightly higher brightness numbers, and it's DisplayPort 1.4, not 2.1. I think this is another one that deserves to be in B tier if you can pick one up. By the way, the Samsung OLED G8 can right now be found for around $900, and the U2 that we just went over is gonna be kind of hard to find, but if you can, it'll probably be around the same price. Now, next up, we have the MSI AW3225QF, another 32-inch 4K 240Hz QD OLED, and this one, well, it's gonna be pretty much the same as the Alienware and the Gigabytes, except for this one comes in at a price of $850 right now, which is actually pretty dang good. DisplayPort 1.4 to HDMI 2.1. I think this is another one that, you know, to be honest with you, in the current market, at its current price, I think I'm gonna throw it into A tier just for its price, and that's it. But pretty much it does nothing particularly special, but I think it's a really solid price, and I would highly recommend picking one up. Now, next up, we have the MPG321URX. This is basically just a slightly upgraded version of the MAG321UPX. It has a little bit more features. If you want to know more information, again, I'll have full review in the description below. But this thing is effectively the same. However, it comes in a price of $900. So once again, it's going to be more on the affordable side. I think this one also deserves to be in A tier just for its affordability. I think it's a great option. And next up, we have the LG 2025 C5. Now, this is a 42-inch technically TV, but look, folks, a lot of people use this as a monitor, so I threw it in here. And this thing, it comes with 4 HDMI 2.1 ports, no display port, and it also does have lower full screen brightness than all the QD OLEDs we've been going over so far, but much higher 10% window brightness. This actually leads to higher HDR brightness in general in most HDR games, but this one, unlike the triangular RGB subpixel arrangement, this actually has red, white, blue, green. It's a very bizarre layout, and it can lead to some pretty significant text fringing issues. So that is something you'll want to keep in mind if you want to use it as a monitor. That being said, it is a better HDR experience. In this one, I actually was getting slightly higher BT 2020 results than other LG monitors in the past at 74%, so pretty dang good. Now, also, this is a full TV, and you can use it as such. And so for that reason, I think this is another one that deserves to be in A tier. I think it's an awesome option, although I will let you guys know, yes, it's a glossy WOLED, which is going to have far superior ambient light handling, but it's only 144 hertz, so keep that in mind. It's going to be slower than some of these monitor alternatives. So my opinion, it's an A tier, but hey, maybe you think 144 hertz is way too slow and it doesn't deserve to be in there. Let me know in the comments below, but I'm throwing it into the A tier. Next, we have the MSI MAG321UP. This is basically going to be the same as their, UPX, except for it's 165 hertz, so it's 32-inch QD OLED. This one can currently be had for around $800, but that price, it's not much cheaper than the UPX, so I'm going to throw it into the B tier because you're getting a significant drop in the refresh rate, no other improvements. It's only $50 cheaper, so yeah, it's all right. The 322URX from MSI is basically the same as their other ones. Once again, 32-inch QD OLED, 4K. However, this one comes with DisplayPort 2.1, but here's the thing, the 322URX is $1,080 right now. Personally, I feel like that's not that good of a deal. I'd like to see it closer to $1,000, so I'm gonna throw it into C tier, but there's nothing wrong with it. It's still a great monitor. If you see it on sale, definitely pick it up. Next, we have the Gigabyte FO32U2, one you can definitely buy right now. This is actually a 27-inch, so not 32-inch 4K QD OLED, and this is DisplayPort 1.4 with 2 HDMI 2.1, and yes, same subpixel arrangement roughly, and it is going to have around 76% BT 2020 coverage, and you're going to be getting pretty similar brightness numbers to all the other QD OLEDs, nothing significantly better here. Now, this one comes in at a price of currently $838 is the cheapest I was able to find it, and I will tell you, to be honest with you, for a 240 hertz glossy QD OLED 27-inch, it's a pretty good price. So yeah, in terms of the accuracy, it didn't blow me away. It wasn't necessarily particularly bad, nothing like that. It was pretty middle of the road. However, I feel like this one, I feel like based on the price, this should probably be an A tier. So I'm gonna throw that one in the A tier. But next up, we have the Gigabyte FO32U. This is a 32-inch 165 hertz option from Gigabyte. Once again, this one's actually available, and if you're looking for any of these monitors, once again, I'll have affiliate links in the description below to everything I covered that is in stock. Now, this one is DisplayPort 1.4, 2 HDMI 2.1, and everything else about it's pretty much the same. 78% BT 2020 coverage, pretty average accuracy in my testing. And this one you can currently have for around $650. Really great price. I'm gonna throw this one into the A tier. Now next we have the MSI MPG 272URX. This is the 27-inch version of the 4K 240 hertz OLED QD OLED from MSI. And it's got one DisplayPort 2.1, 2 HDMI 2.1. Once again, you're looking around 77% BT 2020. Everything else about it, pretty middle of the road. They have pretty good accuracy, but not perfect. And so for that reason, I feel like, coming in at a price of currently $900, It's pretty solid. I'm gonna throw this one once again into the A tier, pretty similar value to the 321URX. I think it deserves to be there because there's not a ton of options, you know, at that 900 or below price right now, although prices change pretty frequently. So definitely check out some of those links if you're interested in one, as the pricing might change by the time you look at it. Now, next we have the ASUS PG32UCDM. Now, there is also the UCDM-R, which has DisplayPort 2.1, and that one's actually cheaper right now, so think of these as interchangeable, but this one right now can be had for around $1,243. The UCDM-R is $1,200, so they are more expensive than, you know, all the other ones we've been going over so far. However, they also have the ability to be more accurate. And so for that reason, they do bring something to the table that the others can't quite match. And so for me, the PG32UCDM or DMR, because typically the different variants from ASUS have very, very similar accuracy, stuff like that. These should be, in my opinion, well, you know, there's nothing else in particular that's amazing about these. Now, the UCDM is DisplayPort 1.4, keep that in mind, but the enhanced accuracy, you know, for SDR work, you can kind of use these as a professional monitor. So for that reason, I feel like, yes, it's a higher price, but you are getting the better accuracy for that. And I think it deserves to be an S tier for that reason. I really still feel like the UCDM and the UCDMR haven't been dethroned yet for QD OLED. Next, we have the LG 32GS95UE-B. And to be honest with you, this one, I think this actually looks worse than the Samsung OLED G8. In fact, you know, I'm almost feeling bad because, look, this is another matte OLED. This one's a MLA-W OLED from LG, and it's DisplayPort 1.4 to HDMI 2.1, 32-inch, you know, 72% BT 2020, which is gonna be a little bit lower than QD OLED. But I feel like the image quality on this is actually significantly worse than the OLED G8. Now, it does come with, you know, 240 Hz at 4K and 480 Hz at 1080p and some pretty decent speakers actually. So it does bring something to the table, and a lot of people really love this because of the whole package of, you know, you get 240 Hz, you get 480 Hz, you get the nice speakers. But I feel like other companies have done this much better, and the matte coating is really distracting, grainy, and oily on this thing. I think it genuinely doesn't look that great. This is a D tier, and to be honest with you, I almost feel bad for putting the G8 next to it because I think this one looks definitely worse than the G8. I don't think it looks that good. Like, to be honest with you, I didn't like it. I kind of panned it in my review. I thought the matte coating was pretty heavy and bad looking on it. But hey, again, that's just my opinion. Now, next up, we have the 32GX850A-B. And this is in some ways a downgrade versus the 95UE. However, despite the fact that it is a 165/330 Hz, it is using their newer glossy coating, and it looks way better, like just night and day better than the matte version they put out. And for that reason, you know, look, the 95UE also came in at a really high price of, I think it was like $1,400 when it came out, and it's still to this day like $1,355. Another reason why I didn't like it, just way too expensive. This one is actually about $800, so it's cheaper, it looks way better, and who can complain about that? This is A tier all the way. In fact, this is, you know, if it had better accuracy, I'd throw it into S tier. It just has some accuracy issues, some minor ones. I am releasing my review on it, I believe, this week, so stay tuned for that. But overall, I really like this monitor so far. Hold up, me from the future. Forgot to mention all the WOLEDs, not just the TVs. Also, the monitors have much better ambient light handling. They do much better in a bright room versus the QD OLEDs. That's a huge deal. I think it makes a big difference. And I think that's something you should consider, and that will play into where I put things on this list. But enough, back to it. But next we have the ASUS XG32UCWMG, and this is actually basically the same as this LG one we went over. By the way, these ones are coming with, including the matte one from LG and the glossy one, their new RGWB subpixel arrangement. When you compare that to their C5 with the red, white, blue, green, it is actually a significant improvement to the text clarity. It is noticeable for sure. So that is a very nice improvement. In fact, I would say it's probably better than the RGB triangular from QD OLED as well. At least I think it's better. I think it's noticeably better. So this is probably going to be the best text clarity. You know, this, and this are going to be the best text clarity, and this one that we're about to go over, out of all these monitors that we're going over. So if that's important to you, keep that in mind. This is DisplayPort 1.4 to HDMI 2.1. This one from ASUS gives you similar kind of accuracy to the PG32 UCDM, a lot of ways to kind of dial it in and white balance it correctly. For that reason, this is S tier all the way. In fact, this is the best monitor, in my opinion, that I've reviewed thus far, but we got some really good stuff coming this year, so keep that in mind. Now, this is basically the 165 hertz version. I feel like, you know, look, the UCW MG is expensive. It's $1,100, but because of the accuracy and everything, I think it deserves it. I think the same can be said for the XG32 UCWG. Yes, expensive, coming in at around $1,000. It's only 165 hertz, but the accuracy, you know what? Yeah, it's probably an A tier. It's not much cheaper, and yeah, the accuracy is nice, but if you're going after the most premium, just step up to the UCW MG. This one's a little worse because of that price point, I feel like. So there you have it. There's what I think. I think, you know, if I'm going to go through in the, you know, left to right, what's best to worse, kind of tough. I feel like probably I'd do that is really the only major change I made. Like maybe throw these, well, these are kind of unavailable at this point, so maybe I do this kinda, but you know, throwing this into C tier is even a stretch. It's only there because the current price I feel like is too high and it doesn't do anything special. So that's my opinion anyway. So there you have it. I'll have affiliate links in the description below so you can check them all out, see the full reviews, you know, buy them if you want to. But right now in 2026, based on current pricing, here's where I would, you know, throw them all together on a tier list. But let me know in the comments below how you would put them in a tier list. And if there's anything I missed, let me know and I'll try and go ahead and review it going into 2026. And also make sure you get subscribed because yeah, I'm gonna be reviewing a ton of really awesome monitors and TVs. Oh, and also VR this year.